Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is Romy and Michele the Musical. Now, before I jump into this fun musical, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me grow this channel and allows me to get press tickets to shows like Romy and Michele the Musical. So what did I know about this show going in? Not very much. I had never seen the movie, but I knew that it starred Mira Sorvino, Lisa Kudrow as Romy and Michele, respectively, and I knew that also Janeane Garofalo was in it, and Alan Cumming was in it as well. And I'd seen some YouTube clips of scenes from the movie, so I knew it was about these two women going to their high school reunion 10 years later and trying to impress these people that had made their lives difficult in high school. The book for this musical is written by Robin Schiff, who also wrote the screenplay for the movie, which was based on a play she wrote called Ladies' Room that starred Lisa Kudrow. The music and lyrics are by Gwendolyn Sanford and Brandon Jay, who are a married couple that created music for television shows like Weeds and The Orange is the New Black. It's directed by Kristen Hanji, and it's choreographed by Carla Garcia. The show started previews on October 14th, and it was supposed to run till March, but it is closing early on November 30th, which I did not know. I think the marketing for this show hasn't been great because I was not even really aware of this show opening, or I just hadn't seen much about it. And I saw it on a list of off-Broadway shows, and I was like, oh, I should go see that if it's running till March. I got my ticket and then found out that it was closing early in 1 week. So I'm recording this review and getting it out to you for those of you who want to see Romy and Michele before it closes in a week's time. So what is this about? Kind of explained a little bit already, but it's about best friends Romy and Michele 10 years after high school. They get a call letting them know that there's a class reunion, and while Michele dreams of a fun road trip, Romy's worried about them not being successful enough, so they concoct this scheme that they are successful businesswomen who invented Post-its to impress all of the people at the reunion. Along the way, we see flashbacks, we see dream sequences. There's a lot of singing, there's a lot of high belting, and there's a lot of dancing, which I love. In Act 2, they head to the reunion. There's a falling out between Romy and Michele. They go to the reunion, truths come out, and eventually Romy and Michele come back together and discover that being themselves is the best thing they can do. All right, so I have not seen the movie, but from what I've read on Wikipedia and other things, this seems to follow the movie pretty closely. And considering that it was written by the screenwriter of the movie, I can see why that would be the case. Although I would say, why not change it up? Why not make a version of this story that is entirely separate from the movie so that people want to see the movie and then also experience the show, so it doesn't feel like a carbon copy. But we'll get more into that. So let's start with the positive. The two leads, Bundy and Lindsay, are really good. I think their chemistry is great. They're both great singers. They're both energetic, funny, good dancers. I really enjoyed them. And basically one of them is on stage, if not both of them, for the entirety of this musical. So there was always an anchor to really help us through this story. Despite the small cast, these actors, dancers, singers are all great. They play double, triple, quadruple roles. Once they start this show, I just imagine this ensemble is constantly changing costumes, running on and off stage. And the director does a really good job of keeping things moving. The production has a really light-hearted energy. It's very fun, it's very campy, it's very silly, and I enjoyed that. The choreography is actually a highlight of the show. Both Bundy and Lindsay are good dancers. They've clearly taken some ballet toe tap classes when they were growing up, especially Bundy, who was breaking out some ballet moves. The scene at the end where they dance together with the most successful of the high school students at the reunion is delightful, and I enjoyed that a lot. There's heart, and the ending actually touched me about being yourself. It's a little cliche, but you know what? It's a cliche I never get tired of. And I actually, watching this, related to my high school experience. It was the same time, But I think one of the strongest things about this story is we're used to the cliche of seeing the jocks and the cheerleaders being popular, and then we've got the nerds and the goths being unpopular. And it's usually about one or the other. But if you think about it, especially my school had over 4,000 students in it. So the jocks and the cheerleaders were a very small percentage, and the nerds and the goths are very small. Most people fit somewhere in the middle, which is where I fit. And I really related to Romy and Michele just kind of doing their own thing, which is what I did with my best friend in high school. We didn't worry about what was going on in high school. We were having fun doing our own thing. So I really related to this show. So some negatives for this. The biggest problem with this show for me is, I say this, it's the book and the score. Now, the problem with the book is it follows the movie so closely as far as I can see, but it's split into 2 acts, whereas the movie is about 90 minutes and it goes straight through. But by splitting it into 2 acts, what happens is we meet Romy and Michele in modern time, which is in the 90s, and we learn that they're going to go to this reunion, and we learn that they have different feelings about it. Michelle's really happy and excited about it, whereas Romy's really worried that they're not going to be enough. And they decide that they're going to go, but then we have a flashback. And that's the rest of the first act, is a flashback of Romy and Michele. And it's a lot of typical tropes of the cheerleader picking on the other kids and sticking magnets on Michelle's back brace that she has because she has scoliosis. And it's not, as far as like pranks go, it's not a terrible, awful thing that happens to her. So I felt the stakes were really low. Romy and Michele get along the whole time. It's just them against these popular kids, and there's just no stakes in it. It's like I didn't really care about it. So the first act, I was kind of like, and then on top of that, the score has nods to the 90s and 80s, but I felt like the score really felt like it was the same time period. I didn't really feel the difference between the 80s and the 90s. And I just felt the songs felt like workman songs. Just, you did the job, you took the dialogue and you turned it into songs, but there really wasn't a lot of wit or a lot of really interesting ideas. Most of these songs were serviceable, but none of them really, well, with the exception, there's a couple in the second act that stuck with me. But in the first act, yeah, the songs didn't do much for me. So we get to the second act, and things get a lot better, because this is when they come up with this idea that they're going to say that they invented Post-its, and that's going to impress everyone. Then we have a falling out between Romy and Michele, which is great because finally we have some conflict between our main characters. And then they go to the reunion. They arrive separately because Michele falls asleep in the car where she has a dream, which I did not know was a dream sequence, because we're already in this theater world where things are heightened anyhow. I don't know if in the movie it's played differently. I don't love dream sequences in plays where the audience isn't aware that it's a dream sequence, because it kind of feels like I'm being misled. I'm feeling happy for a character, and then you go, oh, that didn't happen, and I'm like, oh. So I'm not a big fan of that device. I just don't think it works well in musicals. Comment below if you disagree with me. But then once we got into the actual reunion, I really enjoyed the show, because that's when we had stakes, we had conflict, we had an arc, we had all these different characters that we met years earlier, and then we see how they've grown, we see how all the drama is now playing out. So I really got on board and really enjoyed the second act. And the 2 songs that I really enjoyed that stuck with me afterwards are Businesswoman Special, which opens the second act, where they show up at this little restaurant along their road trip back to Phoenix. They're coming from LA. And it's just silly. They talk about how they're these businesswomen. And it just was a funny song. And the other song I really liked was sung by Sandy, I Don't Have You. Sandy is this nerdy guy in their high school, but he becomes the most successful, as is often the case, a Bill Gates type. And this actor, shout out to Michael Thomas Grant, has a great rock scream, a great rock voice. He really sold this song, I Don't Have You. Yeah, so that was a memorable moment in the show. There are also some pacing issues with this show. Sometimes there's just dead air between dialogue or songs. I remember one song it was Heather's big song, who's like the goth girl. It had this ending guitar button, but the guitar button went on for so long that I was like, it felt like that quite a few times through the show, where you're just like, okay, let's move on. especially when a show, I didn't feel like it really needed to be 2 acts. We don't have a cliffhanger at the end of the first act, so this thing could have been done in 90 minutes to 100 minutes. All right, so was I bored? Was I confused? Yeah, I was a little bored during the first act because just nothing dramatically was happening and the songs weren't really interesting to me either. That changed when we got the second act. Was I confused? Not by the show so much, just a little confused when we went into the dream sequence. I didn't understand that's what we were doing. They also do an interesting imaginary sequence in the opening, which I actually thought worked quite well. But for most part, not confused. What I am most confused about is what the producers were doing with this. There are so many great musical theater songwriters out there, and book writers. I understand why you would want Robin Schiff to write the book. It might have been a requirement of hers. But I don't understand Gwendolyn Sanford and Brandon Jay, to, according to their Playbill bios, have never written a musical before. And I know so many writers from workshops and readings that I've seen that could have killed this score, that know how to write in an 80s and 90s pastiche, and that are funny and can write really clever lyrics and really catchy tunes. I know so many writers, and I know a lot of writers that would have gladly written a spec song for the producers to be considered to write the songs for such a well-known piece of intellectual property. So I just don't understand the choice of the creatives for this. I assume they're all from LA. And the only thing I can think is that maybe these folks knew each other, and writing a musical is difficult and you want to work with people you like. So I could see that maybe Robin was like, I know this couple and they're composer lyricists, let's work with them. But at the end of the day, as a producer, you're putting your money on the line. And this wasn't a big theater. This was at Stage 42, which is basically a Broadway theater. It's 1 seat shy of being a Broadway theater. It has $4.99. So it's a huge stage. This isn't cheap to mount a show on 42nd Street. Anyhow, so that was my biggest confusion. So I'm gonna wrap this up. Who should go see this show? This show really rides on nostalgia. So if you really love the movie Romy and Michele, I think you'll really enjoy this. You'll get a lot of the inside jokes. I think also if you're a fan of these women, Laura Bell Bundy and Cara Lindsay, I think you'll really enjoy their performances in this. I didn't mention this. Laura Bell Bundy does this crazy Valley Girl accent. She's riffing on what Mira Sorvino did, but she's taking it to the next level. I enjoyed it. It was ridiculous, but it was a little distracting, her way of speaking. But I went for it because the show is so silly and campy. So anyhow, if you like those two, you're going to want to see it for that. If you like just a bubblegum, light, fun, nostalgic show, then I think you'll really enjoy Romy and Michele. But you better get out there soon because it's closing on November 30th. All right. Thank you so much for watching this review. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you at the next one. Bye.
Don't wanna drift away. Wanna stay inside the play. Keep me engaged. Keep me amused with what's in front of me. 'Cause I don't wanna be bored and confused.